I am the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra. That name that strikes fear into the heart of the prophet. When they hear I lead that very movement of the children of light. And have we not brought enlightenment to all the people? This very movement, as heaven ordained, must free the whole of Nigeria. Everybody must be free. And that light, the same way that the sun rises from the east, that light is coming from the east. As always. This very evening, we are going to pray as we are accustomed to doing here. We are going to hand over our proceedings very, very briefly and concisely to the Most High Elohim in heaven. We must pray. Onye anyị na-efe wee na-asọpụrụ mgbe niile, anyị na-ebuli olu anyị niile elu ebe ihe nọ n'ụwa niile, nna nke ebere wee na-aja gị mma, wee na-eto gị, wee na-agọzi gị. Onye dị nsọ mgbe niile ebighị ebi, onye ime eluigwe, onye ọ bụ naanị ya na-achị, onye ọ bụ naanị ya nọ n'oche eze, elu ụwa wee bụrụ ebe ntụkwasị ụkwụ ya. Anyị na-arịọ gị, anyị na-aja gị mma, anyị na-eto gị, na-asị gị ezi nna pụrụ ime ihe niile, biko nye ụmụ gị ezi echiche na amamihe, nye ha akọ ma nyekwa ha uche, tinye ha n'ime mmụọ ha mmasị nke ụmụnne, n'ihi na mgbe niile na nwanne na-aka enyi. Ka anyị were ịhụnanya, ịdị n'otu, mmekọrịta nwanne na nwanne were na-aga njem nzọpụta nwere onwe nke gị onwe gị dịrị anyị ka anyị wee gaa. Ma lekwa ndị iro nna nke ebere dị ngọzi, isi ga-ekpu ha niile n'otu n'otu. Aka nsị ha bụkwa ha ọnụ site na amara gị. Ịgba okwu naanị ume ezi nna dị ngọzi, n'ihi na ọ ga-amasị anyị gụrụgụrụ mgbe bịa anyị wee too gị, gọzie aha nsọ gị n'ihe ọma nke ị na-ebe n'ime ndụ anyị. Anyị wee na-asị na onweghị chi dị ka gị, onweghị onye ọbụla kere eluigwe n'ụwa ma ọ ewezụga gị nna nke igwe, ma o nweghị ihe ọzọ ị ga-eji wee hụ anyị n'anya wee karịsịchaa anyị anaghị efe arụsị. Ọ bụ naanị gị bụ Chineke nna nkuzi niile nke ndị aka na-akpụ isi ala anya. Ya metụ gị n'obi nna ndị nsọ na anyị bụ ụmụ gị. Ya metụ gị n'obi na ala Biafra bụ ala nke gị. Ya metụ gị n'obi onye nwe anyị na Chineke nna, ka i wee lekọtakwa Izrel ka isi elekọta ya na mgbe agbanyeghị atụmatụ ọjọọ niile nke ndị iro. Anyị wee na-arịọ gị ka ịhụnanya gị wee mụbaa n'ebe anyị nọ, ka iru gị wee chaa n'ebe anyị nọ, ka i wee gọzie ụmụ gị n'ụzọ pụrụ iche bụ ụmụ gị bụ ndị IPOB n'ụwa niile, ndị tụrụ ugo, ezinụlọ nke iji aka gị wee hiwe. Ka ọ ga-abụ na ikpeta mazụ site n'ihe ịrịba ama nke gọọmenti ga-eme n'ime ndụ anyị, ụwa niile ga-asị n'ezie n'ezie na ndị dị etu a bụ ụmụ Chineke. Anyị wee na-arịọ gị ezi nna bi n'igwe, ka i wee nara otuto, nsọpụrụ, ịja mma, mbuli elu na ikpe isi ala ugbu a na mgbe niile ebighị ebi. Ka anyị na-arịọ gị ise ise ise. Thank you very much. Some of you have corrected. Did I say Abuja? Was in Ahaba? They met in Ahaba, not even Asaba. Ahaba, as we have a happy name as well across Udimini, that some of you call, or should I say, the white man named River Niger. We are here to preach this very gospel. As long as we come on air every evening, the whole world must listen. As long as we preach this very gospel, Chukwokika Piama must be with us. Therefore, without any further hesitation, we must proceed to offer every prayer to Chukwu Okike Abiyama who resided in heaven. Therefore, as we always commence, not from today, but from of old, our Father who art in heaven, that your name may be hallowed by men, that we may bow at the mention of it, that we may offer every glory unto thee, that we may offer you every adoration and adulation, because there is none like thee.
You fight our battles for us. Every blessed day you demonstrate through your kindness and your everlasting mercy that you are our Lord, our God, and our Creator. This evening we offer these your children unto thee all over this very planet that you created. They are listening across the entire 24 time zones on this very planet where they inhabit. They are listening to your gospel this very evening, this gospel of redemption, a gospel of hope, a gospel of restoration, a gospel of renewal, this very gospel of freedom, this very gospel of emancipation as only you ordained. That this very gospel must be preached, that mankind may be set free from the eternal damnation of the creation of the British. My goodness me, I want to remain in the spirit because we must worship heaven. We answer your name, O Lord of hosts. Everything about us is designed to offer glory unto thee. We have atoned for our sins last year. This very year, we have not only atoned for our sins, we have spilled, we have shed blood, they have shed our blood. We have let our sacrifice be made unto thee. Even on the 30th of August, as we are being felled by the bullets of the enemy, by the workers of iniquity and of darkness, we remain very strong today to beckon upon thee, to ask you for your mercy and for your grace, to ensure that your kingdom is restored upon the face of the earth, that you can bring your healing hand to bear upon the life of those of them that you created for one singular purpose, and that purpose alone, which is to worship you in truth and in every honesty. Is there any way that we have erred? Is there any way that our ancestors may have sinned? We confess before a congregation of the whole of humanity to ask you, O Lord of hosts, to have mercy upon us. You must have mercy upon us. We have suffered enough. We have been subjugated enough. We have been tortured enough. We have been imprisoned enough. We did not do these people anything. Our only crime is to answer your name. Our only crime is to be born your children. Our only crime is to excel at everything that we place our hands into. Our only crime is to exhibit your glory and your blessing, which manifestedly is upon our lives every blessed day. That is why they want to kill us. That is why the British want to join those of them who don't know you to destroy your creation and your inheritance. You will not allow shame to befall your name. You will not allow the enemies to triumph over the lives of your children, because you created us to exist, to worship, to honor, and to praise you. That is exactly what we are going to do when this Biafra comes. It will come in truth and in every honesty, because we remain every blessed day whiter than white and whiter than snow. Is there any way that we have sinned that you cannot forgive us our trespasses, to enable us to fulfill your own word, which was spoken thousands of years ago, that instead of what you promised not to come to pass, that heaven and earth will cease to exist? You opened your mouth to bless mankind to the coming of Yahweh Yeshua, who came here and said, let your kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Those words can never be in vain, because they are anchored upon your holiness and your magnificence. That is why in the end we know that Biafra will come, that these children that we have given birth to all over the world, and their children, and their children, and their children, as long as they give birth to them and they are Biafrans, they will worship you in truth and honesty. Through this very work we are doing, mankind will come to understand you. Let your miracle be wrought in our lives. Let us witness and behold your magnificence, your holiness, your mystery, and your grace under our command. O Lord of hosts, we call upon you. We call upon you to heal. We call upon you to provide succor to those of them who are inconsolable. We ask you to come and strengthen those who are weak. We ask you to restore hope where there is hopelessness. We ask you for inclusion where there is destitution. We ask you for one brotherhood, one camaraderie, one bone, one blood, and one flesh of your children, the Efiks and the Bibios, the Izon, the Shekiri, the Isobos, and also those of them from Isoko. We are traveling all the way to the lands of Igala. We are moving on from there to Idoma, to Igede, to the territories of the Igbo land. All these places we dedicate unto thee. All these lands of yours, we ask you to cover it with your mercy. Because Biafra will come, and when it does, we will dance on the streets. I'm telling you, by the time that we are done, humanity will think that we are mad, we are drunk in your glory, and rightfully so, because your kingdom will come to rest upon this very earth. That very kingdom is the unadulterated, non-negotiable sovereignty of the Republic of Biafra, that your will may be fulfilled in our time. All this we pray, all these we ask for, in no other name apart from that name that belongs to you. He said, my name is Nnamdi Kanu. I am the leader of indigenous people of Biafra all over this very planet, I tell you. I lead indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB. So also do I command the armies of Biafra. They are fiercely loyal. They are loyal, I tell you, and doing the work that I expect them to do. I also direct Radio Biafra, not through any power which I possess or any extraordinary knowledge, but by your grace, O Lord. By your grace, we honor you and we adore you. I know that some people listening, including the British, may not understand what we are doing, but there is nobody in Britain that answers Nwachukwu, the child of heaven. We do. Therefore, when we worship our Father, people should not try to be jealous. They should not feign ignorance or misunderstanding, because we are ancient people. We have been doing this for over 5,000 years, and will continue to do so until the end of time.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Depends on your own time and location where you reside in this world. I am bringing you the history message of the movement of Biafra, how we are getting it right after our peaceful declaration, like every other country that has fight in this world to have their nation. That is the message I am here to bring for you. People has raised flag. People have lowered flag of the enemies in the past. So we are not the first people, neither are we going to be the last. So as I welcome you from my location, please welcome another person by only liking and sharing the program. That is how you are welcoming people to know that we are live and we are direct this evening. So please, I sincerely urge you to hit the like button. If you also never subscribe, please endeavor to subscribe on this page, on this channel, formerly known as Biafra TV, and also USB Research TV. If you don't like this program or share it, I don't know the one I want to share again. This is me bringing you things that we as people of Biafra has been forgotten for so many years ago. those roads that people pass and achieve their country, that they never want us to pass. That is the road I am bringing you into, to understand it clearly, why we must follow this road, and why this road has given people their lost country, or those who declare it newly, that this road that we are doing right now has made them achieve their lost country in the past. So as we are saying it, we are not the last, the first, and the last. So let's proceed. Listen to all these audios as my preamble, then before we dive into the program fully. Listen. Remember the headline that you are seeing. That headline will trigger your mind for something. If you have been following this platform, you will understand. Expose history of 6 organizations that transitioned into government in exile and issue peaceful declaration. Today, they are all countries in the world. So, listen to this.
To give you a comprehensive legal and political history, we have to look globally at the rare, specific organizations and liberation fronts that transitioned into a formal government in exile, GIE, or provisional government, issued a peaceful declaration or redeclaration of statehood, and successfully used that transition to secure international recognition. Historically, this path is incredibly difficult. Most movements remain activist groups or rebel fronts. Only a select few successfully built a state-like administrative structure in exile that the international community recognized as a sovereign nation in waiting. Here is the complete history of the major organizations that successfully executed this exact strategy, organized chronologically by the year of their transition and declaration. 1. The Czechoslovak National Council, Czechoslovakia. The original organization, the Czechoslovak National Council, year of transition and declaration, 1918. The history and transition. During World War I, the lands of Czechia and Slovakia were completely swallowed inside the Austro-Hungarian.
Network, what do we do to you? Please, 1 minute. We are having somehow attack, but we must continue. Let's go again.
If we focus specifically on the scenario where an already existing African country was completely lost to an outside invader or occupying force, its leaders formed a government in exile, GIE, issued a declaration or redeclaration of their sovereignty, and successfully used international law to win their country back. There is one standout historical example that fits this exact criteria: Ethiopia. The historical blueprint, the Ethiopian government in exile, 1936 to 1941. Ethiopia holds a unique status in African history as the country that successfully executed the sequence of losing its territory, operating in exiled sovereignty, and gaining international recognition back to restore its independence. 1935. Italian invasion v. 1936. Country lost, occupation begins v. Emperor Haile Selassie flees to UK/forms GIE to Ichi. 1938. Iconic legal protest and sovereign redeclarations v. 1941. Complete liberation and international recognition restored. 1. How the country was lost, 1936. In October 1935, Fascist Italy, under Benito Mussolini, launched an unprovoked brutal invasion of the legal independent empire of Ethiopia, then widely known internationally as Abyssinia. Despite fierce resistance, the Italian military used advanced weaponry and outlawed chemical weapons, mustard gas, to overwhelm the Ethiopian forces. By May 1936, the capital city of Addis Ababa fell. Italy declared the total annexation of the territory, merging it with Eritrea and Somalia to form Italian East Africa. The sovereign country of Ethiopia was temporarily erased from the physical map. 2. The move to exile and the redeclaration of sovereignty. Emperor Haile Selassie I refused to surrender or sign away the sovereignty of his nation. He went into exile, establishing a temporary headquarters and government in exile in Bath, England, Fairfield House. The pivotal moment of peaceful legal redeclaration happened on June 30, 1936, when Haile Selassie addressed the League of Nations, the predecessor to the United Nations, in Geneva. In an iconic speech, he issued a formal diplomatic declaration to the world. He rejected the legality of the Italian occupation. He redeclared that Ethiopia's sovereignty remained intact under international law, famously warning the global community, asterisk, it is international morality that is at stake. God and history will remember your judgment. 3. The battle for international recognition. Initially, the international community was weak. Under the policy of appeasement, major powers like Great Britain and France actually considered recognizing Italy's de facto control over Ethiopia to avoid a wider war. However, the Ethiopian government in exile continuously used international legal principles to maintain their standing. They argued the principle of ex injuria jus non oritur, unlawful acts cannot create legal rights. Because Italy broke global treaties to invade, the international community could not legally recognize the conquest. They maintained diplomatic channels and refused to shut down their legations abroad, keeping the legal identity of the lost country alive in the eyes of international courts. 4. Winning the country back, 1941. The legal and diplomatic persistence of the government in exile paid off when World War II broke out globally. The moment Britain went to war with Italy, the legal status of the Ethiopian government in exile shifted from a sidelined movement to an official, crucial wartime ally. The liberation, backed by the British military and local Ethiopian freedom fighters, Arbignoch, a liberation campaign was launched. The return. On May 5, 1941, exactly 5 years to the day after the capital had fallen, Emperor Haile Selassie marched back into Addis Ababa. The international community immediately restored full, undisputed international recognition to the domestic Ethiopian state. The government in exile successfully dissolved because its mission was accomplished. It had successfully preserved the legal continuity of a lost country through exile, and safely brought its sovereignty back home to African soil. To give you a comprehensive legal and political history, we have to look globally at the rare, specific organizations and liberation fronts that transitioned into a formal government in exile, GIE, or provisional government, issued a peaceful declaration or redeclaration of statehood, and successfully used that transition to secure international recognition. Historically, this path is incredibly difficult. Most movements remain activist groups or rebel fronts. Only a select few successfully built a state-like administrative structure in exile that the international community recognized as a sovereign nation in waiting. Here is the complete history of the major organizations that successfully executed this exact strategy, organized chronologically by the year of their transition and declaration. 1. The Czechoslovak National Council, Czechoslovakia. The original organization, the Czechoslovak National Council, year of transition and declaration, 1918. The history and transition. During World War I, the lands of Czechia and Slovakia were completely swallowed inside the Austrian.
Honestly, I don't know why network could not allow me this wonderful evening to use full research on this evening, but we must do something. So let's find a way to change the program background and see how that can help us. What we are doing this evening is to give you like about 6 organizations that assist country today, that they have used government in exile from organization to transition into government in exile and issue peaceful, redeclared or declaration of their country. They redeclare their country. Those no one declare it newly, and they are today, from that organizations, they are a full country today. From the organizations, they are a full country today. How do they remain under the organization? Do they remain on the protest? What do this evening? We are going to give you the year of protest, the year of transition, the year of declaration, the year of recognition, and the year they stayed until they went back and take over their territory. That is the history that USB government is repeating today as I'm talking to you. because we have transitioned from organization called Bridging into United States of Biafra. And in the past, many people that went into this way, claiming they are fighting for a country, the world in the past never fully recognized them as a country. They said there is few among them. And when the word said, when you had that word, there is few that was being recognized as a country, that few was few that transitioned into government in exile and issue declaration of their new country or declare their old country that they lost in the hands of the oppressor back. Which is the case of Biafran people today. Our old case is just a case of what? Lost, that we have to redeclare. And all that redeclare transition into government in exile in different countries in the world. They did not just start doing something. They did not just continue protests. They did not just continue making social media. At a time, they all walked away from streets. Even those their own take them 3 years for them to transition. Even those that their own take them just a common 2 years. Even the people that their own take them 6 years. But the most important thing is that a time come, they transitioned into government in exile. What is the fully work of this government in exile? The government in exile must act on the capacity of a country. One, there we have prime minister, president, chief of staff. This is the world, not even in this our modern era, from before the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries. All these things has been piloted. And that is how the world reason. For few of them, of all of them that issued a peaceful declaration of their lost country, all of them are country today. All of them are country today. And that is why the time we are in is a time to start changing the mindset of our people for us to reason like human beings. It's no longer the time where you continue doing whatever you like. And even in the past, those that achieved their country never do how they want, or this their own case is different. This is where they are going to go. No, all of them agreed and wait for the perfect time through government in exile, issue their country, wait for recognition of their country. They now transition into their country and take over their territory and chase away the oppressors. I want to understand that it started from protests, started from having name of organization. Because you can't march on the street without having a name of organization first. You cannot. So those that start marching has the name. When Owazwike start marching to the street of Biafra, or street of Nigeria, Owazwike started with organization named Masol. When Mazi Nnamdi Okwuanu started marching on the street, he used the name IPOB. When the leaders of Namibia started marching on the street, they used SWAPO. When the leaders of Algeria start marching on the street, they use GPRA as the name of organization. At a time, all these people decided to move into a country name. At a time, they first moved into and said, we are no longer organization structure but rather we are now a government in exile of this country. They formed their country. They adopted the name of their country. or them on their own start using name of their country, name of the organization, and they gather together somewhere, declare their country. After that start declare or redeclare, what happened? They become start acting like a country, putting ministers that suit on the apparatus of the template of the international global community that is giving the recognition fully. As they transitioned and put everything in order, they waited. They wait for their recognition. Some of them even achieved recognition, but because of the level of the oppressor and what the oppressor has, they refused to take over the territory. Some of them, after recognition, they waited like 5 years for more recognition to come to them, so those that will back them up, so they can be able to take over their territory without losing the life of their people. This is how people, even in Africa, even in Europe, even in Asia, this is how they recognize, this is how the many of them today are country. And today, the only people repeated this history or repeating this history is only USB Redeclared. Is the only one repeating this fine history, how others got to their country. We move away from organization. On the day that we issue a peaceful redeclaration of the United States of Biafra, the November 29, 2024, in Helsinki, Finland. That day, we have transitioned out of organization like all the countries that we are going to mention their name here today. Remember the number one, that they all started from organization. Then for the organization, you must transition into a government in exile. Sequence on the protocol of the international global community and how they structured that they will not tag you rebel, because when you first started, your name is rebel, insurgency, treason, terrorist. This is the name that will be tagged to you. Then for you to walk away from such a names, the only one that can never give us such a name cannot come close to is a government in exile. You can't tag a government in exile a terrorist, but you can tag organizations terrorist. That is why the government tag IPOB organizations as terrorists, because on international level, they have right to do that. But when you transition into a government in exile, nobody can tag you terrorist organization anymore. And the only thing that removes you in the eyes of the international community, the only thing that removes you as a terrorist or rebel, insurgency, in the eyes of the international global community is the government in exile structure that issue a peaceful redeclaration of a lost country or declaration of a new one. This is how the world, and this is how some countries in the past, some organization has transitioned into a government in exile. And today, many of them that I've been putting here, all of them are a country today. So, and the only way to change this narrative and situation of things in Nigeria is only by supporting USB Redeclared. So, listen to I'm going to give you some audio voice record. So please pay attention as we move into that before we come back to analyze the program fully, step by step. So please bear with me. I don't know why the app is having an attack. I don't understand this one. I never seen this one before. The app is having an attack. If you play it a little bit, it will just go off. That is what I'm experiencing. So I want you to bear with me as we try to manage what we have. Let's see if the network will allow us to use from this way again, because the network is like seriously giving problem this evening. So, but we must continue. We must continue. It's 1 minute. 1 good minute. Let's see. Let's try to refresh. Let's try to refresh everything and see how, if we are going to survive it this evening. Honestly, the attack shocked me because I never believed that I would have, since this evening, the attack is on the research page is becoming more and more. So, but we have to know what we have to do. So, sometimes you might be wonder, why do I continue doing this? It's because of where we are this time around. That's why I said, Mahatma has educated that one Biafra. That Biafra we want has a way we can achieve it. Now that we are in that way that we can achieve that Biafra, we have to do anything humanly possible that our people understand that this is the way that we are going to achieve Biafra as a country, that there is no other way around. That is why wherever you see me, I continue giving you more names, more countries, more organizations, how they achieve their country. What do you want? Is it not Biafra as a country is what you want? What I want is Biafra as a country. What does Mazdan Kane want? He wants Biafra as a country. There is no other thing he wants except that he wants Biafra to stand as a beacon of hope, which is country on their own, that will change all that is happening in Africa today. That's what he wants. So that's why I ask you, what do you really want? If you want Biafra as a country, and now that Biafra has been redeclared, what are you still waiting for? Why are you on the fence, refusing to accept your own, to be a member of your country, that only thing you care for is to just be on the side of making noise? So let us try whether it will play right now. If you are hearing the audio, please.
In African history, the transition from political organizations and liberation movements into formal governments in exile, EXPOZ, was a defining feature of the anti-colonial struggle. The historical timeline reveals how these African administrations organized, how long they protested before taking that step, and who achieved the milestone of international recognition following a formal declaration. 1. The first African organization to transition into a government in exile. The Provisional Government of the Algerian Republic, known by its French acronym, GPRA, Gouvernement Provisoire de la République Algérienne, was the first formalized, structured government in exile created by an African liberation movement in the modern era. How many years of protest before the transition? The transition into a government in exile was the culmination of over 30 years of political protest, nationalist organizing, and eventual armed conflict. 1926 to 1954, 28 years of political protest and organizing. Algerian nationalists spent nearly 3 decades trying to achieve equality, civil rights, and independence through peaceful political parties, protest movements, and rallies, such as the Étoile Nord-Africaine founded in 1926, and later the Parti du Peuple Algérien. These peaceful avenues were systematically crushed, banned, or ignored by the colonial administration, culminating in the tragic Sétif massacres of 1945. 1954, the pivot to armed liberation. Realizing that peaceful protest within the colonial framework had failed, nationalists united to form the National Liberation Front, FLN, in 1954, transitioning from protest to an active war for independence. 1958, the transition to government in exile, after 4 years of intense war, and a total of 32 years since organized nationalist protests began, the FLN officially transitioned its political structure into a formal state apparatus. On September 19, 1958, they issued an official declaration in Cairo, Egypt, establishing the GPRA as the legitimate government in exile for Algeria. 2. The first African government in exile to achieve international recognition after a peaceful declaration. The GPRA, Algeria, also holds the title of being the first non-state African entity to achieve widespread, formal international recognition immediately following its declaration. Because France held absolute, heavy military control over Algerian territory in 1958, the declaration of the GPRA in Cairo was a political and legal action rather than a territorial one, making it a peaceful declaration of statehood from the outside while the war was fought on the ground. The timeline of recognition, 1958. The international community did not wait for the war to end to recognize them. Immediately following their declaration on September 19, 1958, a wave of international recognition followed. Day 1 to 7, September 1958, within days of the declaration, neighboring African and Arab nations, including Egypt, Tunisia, Morocco, Libya, Sudan, and Ghana, formally recognized the GPRA as the sole legal government of Algeria. Global expansion. Shortly after, global powers like China, Indonesia, and several Eastern European nations granted formal diplomatic recognition. The legal impact. By achieving international recognition despite having no physical capital inside Algeria, the GPRA successfully stripped France of its legal argument that the Algerian conflict was merely a domestic policing matter. It forced the international community to view Algeria as an occupied nation with a legitimate, recognized government in waiting, paving the direct legal path to the Evian Accords and full independence in 1962. Other notable African parallel. Bypassing territorial control. While Algeria was the first to transition its revolutionary front into a recognized provisional government, another vital African movement achieved a similar legal milestone entirely through international diplomacy. SWAPO, Namibia, originally founded as a liberation movement in 1960 after decades of peaceful labor protests against South African apartheid occupation. In 1973, through intense diplomatic lobbying, the United Nations General Assembly passed Resolution 3111, formally recognizing SWAPO as the sole and authentic representative of the Namibian people. Like the GPRA, SWAPO achieved this international status and operated an external administrative structure for over 15 years before South Africa withdrew and Namibia achieved physical independence in 1990.
This first African country that transitioned into a government in exile, and they issued peacefully declared or declaration of their country, and with all you had here, they was organized as the legitimate government of South Africa, the one that issued that declaration in exile. When this Algeria issued their declaration through their government in exile that stays in Cairo, Egypt, and Tunisia, when they declare this their country, they have another group that march after the declaration. This group that emerged and came out, there was against the government that issued the declaration of Algeria as a country. Like what you are seeing today that is happening at USB Redeclared. Algeria has 8 different groups that emerged after the declaration of Algeria, September 19, 1955. September 19, 1955. After this, their declaration, could you believe that Algeria remained in Cairo, Egypt, and Tunisia from 1959 down to 1990? Please, I want you to help, if you are here in the comment section, calculate from 1958 to 1990, how many years? I am now talking about the declaration of Algeria as a country. I am not even talking about the time they started from their protests of everything. I mean, when they declare Algeria as a country, they are 2 different countries, but they have the same history. So, if you are here, want to help me to check or plus or minus, do the arithmetic between the 9, how many years after Algeria declares their country, that Algeria stay in exile before they came back in 1990 to take fully in charge of their territory. In this 1990, the same time Namibia also take fully in charge of their territory by South Africa packing their load and leave the territory of Namibia, while France leave the territory of Algeria for them. Finally, when you look at this narrative or this history that USB is repeating, you may quickly understand that that is flowing USB declared as an organization that transitioned into a government in exile, that issue a peaceful redeclaration of our lost country, which is Biafra. Like you heard about Namibia, Algeria, and many more countries that I am going to present the fact. I round it up all over the world to check out of those that their case is our own case too. It's like our own case. How they achieved their country, where they are today, what they are doing, and why that none of all these groups that emerged after their declaration, it was the one who stopped them, or that none of all these organizations that after the declaration destroyed the movement of people of Namibia. And for those that are thinking that they are going to stop USB redeclared, you are wasting your time, because the USB declared as of this today, so I'm talking to you, being the 4th of June or 5th. Because someone like me, I'm already in the 5th of June. Here I am right now. So when you look at it, USB is the only one who is repeating this history and who is working on the full template of the international global community, how we can achieve Biafra as a country. And you never knew that we have achieved it already, the same way that Algeria, Namibia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, like Ethiopia was the first Kenya in Africa that lost their country and issued a declared of their lost country, and they got it and get recognition back. That was the country that was existing already. But they lost it. When lost in the hands of Italy, what happened? They flew into exile again. And from exile, issue another first form government in exile. From form government in exile, they transition into a declaration, into redeclared of their lost country. And when they declared their lost country till today, after they have declared it, they got recognition. They never declare and went back and start knocking with those that occupied their land. That means it's not peaceful. For you to be peaceful, you remain calm where you are, no matter the intimidation, no matter the harassment, no matter the arrest, no matter what they are doing to your people. Because you can't claim peaceful and claim violence at the same time. You will choose one. And if you ever in this 21st century choose violence, your own is gone. Okay? Is what will be the name of what we are doing. So please, I urge you to join us. Please hit the like button. The liking of the button is too poor. It makes sense. I begin to wonder if Biafrans, maybe they don't like the message, because I am not presenting I'm not presenting gangsters and all these people. I am not presenting IPOB saga and what Nigeria presents to us to do, instead of us to expose things that the world needs to know about us and let us know that we're on the right track. You may not like the message. I find out by myself that many don't really like it, but I do it because of it encourages me, because I am fighting for my own Biafra. And I want to know that is keeping me. And so I want to know if I'm on the right track, because with all the nonsense that is going on social media, you might be confused. And I can't know. So the important thing is that the message that Chukwuka give me to go, I'll give it out, and he bear me witness, I send the message out. So because of when the Hadino will come into the hands of those that don't want to move, that they want to remain in darkness, then the law of Biafra will judge all of them secretly. And those who will remain in exile will remain in exile. Those who in abroad in diaspora will remain in diaspora. And those who tested the exile government and run away will remain in exile, because the shame will not allow them to come back. Shame will not allow them to come back. What they are doing this time around is not the way. It's not the way. So when you look at the issue of Algeria and how they transition and their movement and everything, you will find out the years. What I want you to pick out is the years they spent, like you had it here. When all this their movement happens, if you count it from 1954 to 1962, how many years is that? The negotiation for them to come out of their country, the negotiation for them to return, the recognition for them to return, the time that they have the time that they are outside, not even in their country, the time that they are not in their country, the time they have issued declaration, 8 years. Thank you so much, Gabriel. You look at it, USB, how many years of redeclared? For those who are championing, you claim you declare a country, you are sovereignty, but you are outside. When Algeria declares their own, are they not sovereign? Are they not outside for 8 years before they come back to take over their territory? Algeria, when they declare their own, are they not in Cairo, Egypt? Are they not in Tunisia? They say that when your territory is being occupied by the enemy, that the only first territory you have is on the paper, sovereignty on the paper first. Once you win the sovereignty on the paper, then you have win on the ground. The sovereignty on the paper helps to that is what gives the international global community chance to come to you. That is what gives them the chance to come. That is what gives them the power to come. It's not about how you feel. It's not about what you think. It's not about what you know. It is about the existing protocol. And you had it here that many who try to achieve their country, that the world without this proper movement of transitional government in exile and have a good structure, proven capacity of a nation, that all of them was being tagged rebel, insurgency, terrorists, and all these things that's happened to them. In all that has happened to them in their life, many fell. Those who transitioned into a government in exile, they are only the ones that succeeded. And all of them today are, all these people I'm mentioning today, don't you know about Namibia? Don't you know about Algeria? Don't you know about Eritrea? Don't you know about Ethiopia? Don't you know about Angola? Don't you know about Zimbabwe? Can't you look at how they shift their country? Do you think that it's about this thing that you are doing social media is how they become a country, or is what helped them to achieve recognition? Is what you think? The thing that matters for you to help you to achieve recognition, are you doing your own part, even taking your ID card as a Biafran? How do you claim you love USB? United States of Biafra is my country, but only to take your ID card and that's why you refuse to give 10,000 ID card vote, 10,000 ID card of the digital era that we are into it. Instead of you to help to give this, you are here doing saga. When you look at every other country in the past, now with what you are hearing and things that are happening, tell me how this our case, we always claim that our case is quite different. Tell me how the case is different from every other one, except that you make your own case to be different, because how you present your case is how it's going to be treated. Since over all these years, we present our case that we only want Nigeria to be a better country and stop abuse of rights or intimidation. Like what IPOB is sending to the international community, which is tomorrow, we are going to look at the document of IPOB, United Nations. We're going to see the document IPOB submitted to the ICJ. Tomorrow, we are going to look at all the documents of IPOB. We're also going to look at the document Ogun Kere is parading himself with, what he's sending Ogun Kere. Then we also look at what US is sending. Then we now ask who is acting as a country that is waiting for recognition tomorrow. So when you look at the document, you find out. The document tells it all. Whether are you fighting for Biafra as a country? Let's listen to another audio voice again.
To truly understand how an African liberation organization successfully transitions into a formalized government in exile, and uses a peaceful redeclaration or declaration to secure global recognition, we must examine the specific mechanics they use to outmaneuver colonial powers. Historically, European colonial powers dismissed liberation movements as mere internal rebels, insurgents, or domestic agitators to prevent other nations from legally intervening.
Do you hear it? Do you see how they describe organizations? I hope you are with me, and I hope you had it by yourself. To truly understand how an African liberation organization successfully transition into a formalized government in exile and use a peaceful declaration or declaration to secure global recognition, we must examine the specific mechanism they use to take over the territory from the colonial power, and what the colonial power used against the indigenous people of the country. Historically, European colonial power dismissed the liberation movement as more internal rebel. You see, this is how once you are in a group, they must see you as an internal rebel or insurgency or domestic agitator to prevent other nations from legally interfering by transition into a former government in exile. African leaders revolt the legal rule of their struggle by transition into a government in exile. When you are fighting for a lost country or a new one, that is only when you have revoked the power for yourself to live and also to give to the other countries and other organizations, international community organizations like United Nations, ICJ, for them to see you as a country, or United or EU or AU in Africa. This is how other countries in the past, this is how people have formed organization and their transition to government in exile. The transition of the only government in exile the world knows very well is that one that issue a peaceful redeclaration, or the one that did the declaration of their new country, of when it's come to old, redeclare it back. And they must prove a government structure fully. This is without that, whatever you are doing, the world said this is an internal problem of one Nigeria from IPOB and their structure. And what they are doing, what they are presenting. It's not a child's play. I know that I'm not attacking anybody, I didn't mean any harm, but let's call it a spade, the truth be told. You have said this thing for 14 years for nothing. We have waited for Biafra to be a country from over 59 years. By next year, or in some few months right now, we become a maximum 60 years that we are looking for Biafra, that other countries look for 8 years, look for 10 years, look for 20, 30 maximum. They're all a country, some 28 years. And the one single organization that some organization has transitioned from the time of their protests to government in exile. Maybe it might take them 28 years, or it might take them some years, and their transition and the issue declaration. After that, some of them, it took them 8 years for them to come back and possess their territory back. When you look at everything that we are doing this time around, and what USB is doing, and you are hearing this program, they tell yourself the truth now. Why do you like to be suffering our people? Why are you going to be arresting, abducting our people and kidnapping them and be buying them? Why do you like that? Why do you want Mazaka to be still in prison by you not supporting USB Redeclare as the only way out? And you are claiming you are 100. There is no 100 men anywhere in the history that have achieved their country. And let me tell you, we can have a Biafra, this Biafra we are looking for, without all these things that happen right now. These are things that are strengthening us more. These are the things that are strengthening us to do more. Please, I don't know if you like the program. Have you shared the program? Have you liked the program? Why are you stingy only to just like a program? You are stingy. Why? When you go back to the Biafran territory or Nigeria today, they are burning houses, doing everything. The only thing that will stop it is what USB is doing right now. Once USB is recognition, all these invaders will disappear. You don't know that, because we know how to deal with them, and we are the only one in that country called Nigeria that has monopoly how to end what is going on today: the killing, the abduction, the kidnapping, the causing of hells and everything that's going on in Nigeria today. We have monopoly to stop those men that are doing it. No other person can do it. The arrest of our people need to be stopped. Not that they would have given you how many people of Algeria was arrested, being kidnapped. I've given you how many that was being buyed. I've given you on also Namibia, how people that was being kidnapped and being buyed, and how South Africa used people of Namibia to fight against the government in exile that issue the declaration of Namibia as a country. That is why we must look at everything in between to find out the real truth. Despite most complete example of this transition in Africa, history is the history of the Professional Government of the Algeria Republic, GPRA, formed by the National Liberation Front, FLN. This is how they formed the organization. Now, listen to this. The strategy moving from movement to a state. The strategy moving from a movement of protest to a state as a nation or a country. How do they do it? In 1954, the FLN launched its liberation struggle. By 1958, despite heavily fight, France maintained absolutely control over Algeria citizens or territory, borders, and the many institutions France legally created. Here it is here that France legally created many organizations to fight against the GPRA that issued the declaration of Algeria as a country. That time, those that was fighting against the real government of Algeria that issued the declaration of Algeria as a country, those that was fighting them, claiming they are also fighting for Algeria to be a country. That is what Ogen Kre and all these people are doing today. And we are supporting them. Why can't we learn from what happened to others? Why can't we learn from what has happened to many people in the past? Look at France creating many organizations, many institutions to fight against the full government in exile that was in Cairo, Egypt, and Tunisia. Even though the territory of Algeria is working with France, like what people are doing today, working with the Nigerian government against what has been declared. Can't you say that this history is repeating? The question is, after France created all this, they said France created many major organizations that was attacking the GPRA. Like how you see Ogen Kere, BGC, CRC, PUK, and all of them today, attacking only USB declared. That is how the history is repeating. It simply means that the history is what? Repeating. It's not about how you see it. It's not about what you think about it. It is about the reality on ground today. Why can't you learn from them? Why can't you understand that all these groups that you see out that is against Redeclaration declared was being formed by the enemy of Biafran people, who is the government? Like the same thing South Africa did, the same thing France did against people of Algeria. Do you think that all these things we saw have disappeared? No. But what could be the happiness? The happiness and the belief and the trust or excitement on it is that it's only that one, GPRA, was the one every other countries, every other international body is organized as the legal, authentic government in exile of people of Algeria, that is the pure government of Algeria. Can't you understand it? Can't you see by example? Know why you must support USB? It doesn't matter what anybody's saying. Because the road or the template recognition is not in the hands of any Biafran. It's not in the hands of any Nigeria. It's not in the hands of anybody. It's in the hands of a country who decided they want to organize Biafra as a country. US as a country. It doesn't matter what you are doing. It doesn't matter how many groups, because the how many groups of about 8 that was being created by France and about 5 that was created by people of by South Africa against Namibian people. None of them won the case. The one that issued it won the case. The one that issued that declaration is the one that won the case, not vice versa. They would just say, okay, come, because we are plenty, we are going to vote to know who has the highest population. The word said, a road to great recognition is not about population. That the criteria is quite different. It's not a criteria of a vote. And it's about the legal side of it and who got it right first, and maintain the rightness of the first one that group has ever gotten by transition government in exile and issue. And when you follow this program, all this research, it's always on the side of the one that issue declaration or declared. Is the one that the government, the world stand with. They are the one that the world will stand with at all time. I never see anyone that declare and said, okay, you declare you could not meet the criteria, you are not doing well. That is why we are going to organize another group. No, it never happened. It never happened anywhere at all. That is why at this stage we are into, you guys to understand the real deal and why you must support USB. People are no longer coming for it because our people are very tired. And you are tired because of now that we have gotten it right. Why are you tired? Of course, when it's going to end, is where it's getting more tougher. It's now you have to contribute. Now that after all these 59 years that we have gotten it right again, it's time that we are tired. You don't support it anymore.
By transitioning into a formal government in exile, African leaders dramatically rewrote the legal rules of their struggle. The deepest, most architecturally complete example of this transition in African history is the Provisional Government of the Algerian Republic, GPRA, formed by the National Liberation Front, FLN. 1. The strategy, moving from movement to state.
If you remain in protest, you are just a movement, you're not a state. And there is no amount of your protest that will give you a state or make you a country. If you like protest from over 1,000 decades, it can never give you a country until this transition you had that people of Algeria did in their own time. Between the 1954 to 1958, 1962, the movement, how they become a country that you are hearing about Algeria today is what I'm giving to you. And that is on your own with this explanation. Don't you really believe that USB is now on the right track? Why are you not donating? Why are you giving change? Because you are tired. You are tired now that we are on the right track. It's now that you have to beat up your chest and say, let's finish it up. You know the heart it takes to finish. Bring that heart and come. Support USB will be declared. Saturday is very near. Saturday is by the side. What are you still waiting for? Why are you on the fence? Why? They achieved this narrative. The FLN realized it needs a diplomatic revolution to match its ground strategy. On September 19, 1958, the FLA leadership met in Cairo, Egypt, and issued a formal peaceful declaration establishing the GPRA as a government in exile that have issued a peaceful declaration of Algeria as a country. Why can't you learn from here? This is where USB is learning from, and that is why the world sees us as one of the most peaceful, the modern 21st century, the peaceful among all in the history. Always they refer to USB redeclared. Always refer to USB redeclared. You see, all this charade of IPOB is nothing. It's just a movement under human rights abuse. It's very different from the state waiting for recognition that you want your lost country back. By doing this, they change the status overnight. When they transition into government in exile, Algeria, they have changed the status of the calling of that France was tagging them insurgency, rebel, terrorist group, and all this. They only changed it immediately. They said they shifted, they changed the movement. The names of those name callings was being dropped. Before the declaration of Algeria, they were an armed political organization, FLN. Under international law, the third-party countries could face diplomatic backlash from France for adding them. If you put the military wing and showing them social media and you are jeopardizing the recognition of supposed to have, and everything will be changed automatically. Look at how Algeria remained calm and peaceful. They remain calm and peaceful. Even before they issue their declaration, they have stopped. They have stopped. After the declaration, they were sovereign states. After their declaration that they are what? Sovereign state. They now become what? A sovereign state after their declaration. They become a sovereign state apparatus, temporarily operating without territory. They are operating without a physical territory, Algeria. Friendly nations could now extend a formal diplomatic recognition directly to the government, passes France externally. They could jump France and organize them. That is how do you see how this works? Do you see how it works like magic? Remember that it's the one that has issued a declaration in exile. You had it here that they met in Cairo, Egypt, and Tunisia to issue the declaration of their country via government in exile. What are you still waiting for? The operational infrastructure of the non-territorial African states. Once the declaration was issued, the GPRA did not just exit on paper. It sets up a high-functioning parallel states across the multiple international bodies. They now set up a government in all over the world. Like you will declare, setting their parliaments, setting their people that work with government in every country, like the leaders of all the leaders of liaisons head. This is how people that want a country starts doing things. That is why when they say, when you told Master can go and start doing something, do you think that is just go and start doing something for mouth? It's about the real deal of how you can have your country. Mazakan did not form government in exile. It's not his fault, because he said a time will come when people will give a mandate to form government in exile. And that time has come when through Abatobi, Simon and Joko. And you are seeing today, because of you cannot do it, and because of you don't know how to plan it and how to achieve it, another person, any other one that did it, that person is a wrong person in your own understanding. Why? Why? The headquarters hubs, Tunisia and Cairo, Egypt, is where people of Algeria have their headquarters because they could not operate safely inside Algeria. Are you hearing it? Because they could not operate safely. The GPRA divided its administration. The political and diplomatic headquarters were established in Tunisia and Cairo, Egypt. These host countries granted them GPRA fully extremity, their office and compound were recognized as sovereign Algeria territory, protected for diplomatic immunity. You see how the people that want you to be a country, how they help people of Algeria to become a country. You see? The ministers' strike, the GPRA structured itself excellent, like an active peacetime government, creating specialized ministers to handle different aspects of their sovereignty that was on the paper, not on the ground. And from there, they win the paper one and came back down to Namibia came back down to Algeria territory, and the France flew away after they have got recognition. I want you to follow these programs closely to understand where we are.
Struggle. By 1958, despite heavy fighting, France maintained absolute control over Algeria's cities, borders, and major institutions.
After their declaration, France heavily maintained control, like the way South Africa maintained control of Namibia until due time.
France legally categorized Algeria not as a colony, but as an integral département, province of France itself, meaning any resistance was treated as domestic treason, not an international war. To shatter this narrative, the FLN realized it needed a diplomatic revolution to match its ground strategy. On September 19, 1958, the FLN leadership met in Cairo, Egypt, and issued a formal, peaceful declaration establishing the GPRA. By doing this, they changed their status overnight. Before the declaration, they were an armed political organization, FLN. Under international law, third-party countries could face diplomatic backlash from France for aiding them. After the declaration, they were a sovereign state apparatus temporarily operating without its territory, GPRA. Friendly nations could now extend formal diplomatic recognition directly to a government, bypassing France entirely. 2. The operational infrastructure of the non-territorial African state. Once the declaration was issued, the GPRA did not just exist on paper. It set up a highly sophisticated, functioning parallel state across multiple international borders. The headquarter hubs, Tunis and Cairo, because they could not operate safely inside Algiers, the GPRA divided its administration. The political and diplomatic headquarters were established in Tunis, Tunisia, and Cairo, Egypt. These host countries granted the GPRA full extraterritoriality. Their office compounds were recognized as sovereign Algerian territory, protected by diplomatic immunity. The ministry stack. The GPRA structured itself exactly like an active peacetime government, creating specialized ministries to handle different aspects of sovereignty. Ministry of Foreign Affairs managed a network of diplomatic missions in major world capitals, including New York, Beijing, and London, to lobby foreign powers and the United Nations. Ministry of Information ran a highly effective global public relations apparatus, publishing the official state newspaper, El Mujahid, and broadcasting state radio messages back into occupied territory to maintain domestic loyalty. Ministry of Armaments and General Relations, MALG, handled logistics, intelligence, and secure communications, ensuring that the political leadership in exile remained in constant, encrypted contact with the guerrilla commanders, wilayas, fighting inside Algeria. 3. Weaponizing international law. The Geneva Convention masterstroke. One of the most brilliant practical executions of digital and legal sovereignty occurred in April 1960, when the...
Do you hear? I want you to get this point. We're penalizing the law, not weaponizing military and armed struggle. They were penalizing the Geneva Convention law. They implemented Geneva Convention. That is what US is doing today. If Algeria can go through this and become a country, Namibia from South Africa, Eritrea from Ethiopia, what of those that was just recognized by Israel, Somaliland? What about them? What about South Sudan? Look at how people achieved their country. Look at how people worked. Look at what people did. Look at those that want a country. Know that those want a party political pressure name that's going to be giving them money. And you that is flowing them cannot reason and ask. Only do go for 14 years, nothing to be right home about. Any Obi who went to military without a boot never went to army at all. Without this declaration, all we are doing is we are just making noise for over all these years, and I have proved it to you. And that those that are making noise is those that want me to be sharing their program, we analyze them. That's what you like most. Please, I urge you to hit the like button if you never do so. I don't know what you are waiting if you don't want to like the program. What are you still waiting for? You don't want to subscribe to the channel. I am not attacking you, but I'm telling you the bitter, because the truth is always bitter. The truth is always bitter. Nigeria did not declare and be doing armed struggle. That's what Batobi told us, that after this our peacefully declared that if you see him throwing one blade on Nigeria, that you are wasting your time. But that even it's going to take us 10 years, it's going to take us 20 years, 30 years for us to make that Nigeria live. That Nigeria must surely live. But if you're expecting him to be knocking water, it's not going to be possible anymore. After we have declared, have we never declared it? Or for you waiting for him to come out? That is not how it works. That is how you think, what you feel. That is not how to get a new election. That is not how to do what you are looking for. As a person, when you lead the person, now they have another person take over. Go and check the history of all these countries. There was a time their leader was arrested, and other people take over. Some of them women, which I'll give you out of over 10 names of countries that woman was in charge when the real leader was in prison. After Algeria declares their country, after the declaration, what happened? Algeria never started knocking water. They said that they implemented international law, Geneva Convention. That is what McArnold don't know. Being a white man doesn't make him he knows everything. That white supremacy, I don't respect it at all. I don't expect white supremacy on that. They know it. No, McArnold don't know about this. No matter whatever he may be, and whatever that's hosting him. And he made it openly that he doesn't know about this. In the past, people have used legal way to achieve their country. Algeria used it, Namibia used it, Eritrea, Ethiopia, after they have lost their country. They all use legal path to achieve their country. And on that legal path is where US will be declared. That is where we are at this junction. So that is why you must come on Saturday to support US will be declared. We are on the end point. This end point is not going to be easy. We have established our headquarters in America, established another one in Finland, whether you like it or not. There's nothing you can do about it. Like people of Algeria establishing in Tunisia and Cairo, Egypt. Can't you hear that? After they have declared it, they implemented what? Geneva Convention law of stopping armed struggle. They implemented Montevideo Convention of 1933 and United Nations Charter. This is what they did. And today, they are a country before us. Now, let us see those that organize them. Are they acting as organization? They are acting as a country, a government of a country. And they said, by acting, proving a government of a country, that you are giving other countries power to grant to talk about you. That is why many countries that understand where we are today can boldly talk about Biafra as a country. You don't understand it. It's not by protest. It's not by being a name of organization.
PRA voted to formally ratify and sign the Geneva Conventions.
Are you hearing it?
France was furious and immediately protested to the Swiss government, arguing that an exiled body with no territory could not legally sign international treaties. However, the GPRA successfully used this move to achieve two massive outcomes: sovereign legitimacy. By forcing the international community to accept their signature on a global treaty, they proved they possessed treaty-making capacity, a core attribute of a sovereign state under the Montevideo Convention. Internationalizing the conflict, it legally bound the conflict to international humanitarian laws. The GPRA published a global white paper documenting French military violations, systematically dismantling France's claim that the war was a private, domestic policing matter. 4. The path of international recognition. The immediate wave of recognition following the 1958 declaration was highly structured. The first countries to recognize the peaceful declaration of the GPRA were categorized into three strategic waves. Wave. Key nations. Strategic importance. The immediate neighbors. Tunisia, Morocco, Libya.
Are you hearing it? Which government did they recognize? The Tunisia, Morocco, Liberia recognized the GPRA that transitioned into government in exile and issue the declaration of Namibia, of Algeria as a country. They did not organize this or the other 8 group and said, you people are too much group. Okay, we are calling you to come together now. We Tunisia want to organize you. Morocco want to recognize you. Liberia want to recognize you. So because of that, we want you to come together. So let us talk to you and the nodes want to recognize. They never do that. Because they understand the protocol. They went straight ahead to recognize the government that issued a peaceful declaration of Algeria as a country, which is the one for GPRA today, who declares Biafra as a country. The original British government in exile, formed by Simon Heba, leading right now by the surrogate of Tunisia Arabia, DPN, is one that issued declaration. The world knows who to go to. It's not by our own ideology. It's not about how we think. It's not about how we feel. It's not what we know. It is about that the world knows the legal right of who is this person that gives me this legal right, and how we follow this person. That is what the world is asking us to do. The world is not asking us to come and do 1 million men march. The world is not asking us to come and do protests. The world is asking us to proven declaration so we can be able to achieve recognition. All of them declared before they get recognition. Algeria protested for 4 years. They said the protest cannot give us a country. They transitioned government in exile. The government of GPRA, the authentic, the original one that issued the declaration, did what? As they transitioned, what happened next? They declare it. As they declared, after that, recognition starts coming. You had it here. The first and second and third country that recognizes people of Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, and Liberia. After that, Egypt, Sudan, and Ghana. After that, China, Pakistan, and Soviet Union, Soviet bloc. These are those that recognizes them because of what? They have issued declaration of their country. And they maintain us a government in exile structure, proving a government of a country, not organization of bridge, not organization of IPOB, not organization of BGC, not government council, or not all these noises are making here and there today. This law has been there before us. The law will see us now and change. The law cannot see us and change. It's only when you stand on the right side of the law. It might take you time. That's why I always use my word. That's what happens. That's the destiny can be delayed, but it can never be denied. Look at when it is time for the destiny of people of Algeria. It appears after they have declared their country, and after that, standing on the mandate of the giving the other nearby countries, neighbors, power to come in. That when there was doing protests, Tunisia never comes in. When they were doing protests, Morocco never comes in. When they were doing protests, Liberia never comes in. When they were doing protests, Egypt did not come. When they were doing protests, Sudan never come. When they were doing protests, Ghana was never come. When they were doing protests, China never come. When they on the protest, Pakistan did not come. When they on the protest, Soviet Union never come. What is your problem? They never come. Look at Algeria. Remember, 4 years of protest, transitional government in exile, dump a name of a structure and declare. And they turn the GPRA immediately as a party name in Algeria. Like people of Namibia, turning SWAPO a party name in Algeria. You only say our own. You say our own is different. No, you are different. You made your case different, not the world. Now that USB has come and bring it to the right center point of the end point of all the wasted years of 59 years in general, starting from was wicked down to today. What takes people of Namibia, 32 people of Algeria, 32 good years for them to achieve their own, has taken us 59 years.
Physical sanctuaries, border access, and diplomatic conduits directly adjacent to the occupied homeland. The Pan-Arab and African allies, Egypt, Sudan, Ghana, solidified regional solidarity. Egypt provided heavy media broadcast networks and initial financial backstops. The global powers, China, Pakistan, Soviet bloc, provided heavy geopolitical leverage, veto support at the UN, and advanced logistics, arms supply to the exiled network. By the time France finally agreed to sit down at the negotiating table for the Evian Accords in...
Now, after they had organized them as a country, Tunisia, Morocco, Liberia, Egypt, Sudan, Ghana, China, Pakistan, Soviet bloc, they all give them arms to chase away France. They give them what? Now the area of military now comes because of they have those that will back them up. All these countries supply them weapons to chase away France. And when France see the level of people that are supporting them, it forces France to come into negotiation. And what's happened? France organizes Namibia back out of their territory because of what? Other countries has come to join to protect the territory of Algeria. Algeria did not do it alone. Biafra cannot do it alone. We need allies. We need an organization to come so we can be able to do it. We need the organization to come so we can be able to do it. It's not about how you feel. It's not about that you want to remain relevant because of you are claiming you are IPOB. It's about getting the right, doing the right thing that leads to the right point, that ends everything that is not good. That is why all of you today must stop your madness and face reality. The reality you have is USB redeclared. That is the reality you have. There is no other reality. I said what? There is no other reality except USB redeclared is the reality that makes Biafra to become a country and giving the world the power to discuss about us. That is the pure, this is the truth. And that's what happened in Namibia. So Algeria. So you had it here. Then by the time France finally agreed to step down and negotiating table for the Avian Accord in 1962. In 1962, that is when France let us, oh, so this is the truth too, that these people declared their country. So people have supported them and called them a country. Okay, let us agree. And after that, after the declaration, it took them 8 years before France will agree to pack out to the territory of people of Algeria. Before France can be able to pack out after 8 years of the declaration, how many years is USB redeclared, if I may ask you? How many years? How many years the USB is redeclared is my question to you. How many years? And you think that when you talk your sure, that is that's what's going to stop it. When you form your groups, that you're tomorrow he wants work. You say there's many groups who talk about this Biafra now. We are out to let us score. There is nothing like that. The law must be implemented because I am here to tell you to stop. I want to end your Hadaino, even if you did not accepted it. Let us go into another section. Listen to this.
If we focus specifically on the scenario where an already existing African country was completely lost to an outside invader or occupying force, its leaders formed a government in exile, GI, issued a declaration or redeclaration of their sovereignty, and successfully used international law to win their country back. There is one standout historical example that fits this exact criteria: Ethiopia. The historical blueprint, the Ethiopian government in exile, 1936 to 1941. Ethiopia holds a unique status in African history as the country that successfully executed the sequence of losing its territory, operating an exiled sovereignty, and gaining international recognition back to restore its independence. 1. How the country was lost. 1936. In October 1935, Fascist Italy under Benito Mussolini launched an unprovoked, brutal invasion of the legal, independent empire of Ethiopia, then widely known internationally as Abyssinia. Despite fierce resistance, the Italian military used advanced weaponry and outlawed chemical weapons, mustard gas, to overwhelm the Ethiopian forces. By May 1936, the capital city of Addis Ababa fell. Italy declared the total annexation of the territory, merging it with Eritrea and Somalia to form Italian East Africa. The sovereign country of Ethiopia was temporarily erased from the physical map. 2. The move to exile and the redeclaration of sovereignty. Emperor Haile Selassie I refused to surrender or sign away the sovereignty of his nation. He went into exile, establishing a temporary headquarters and government in exile in Bath, England, Fairfield House. The pivotal moment of peaceful, legal redeclaration happened on June 30, 1936, when Haile Selassie addressed the League of Nations, the predecessor to the United Nations, in Geneva. In an iconic speech, he issued a formal diplomatic declaration to the world. He rejected the legality of the Italian occupation. He redeclared that Ethiopia's sovereignty remained intact under international law, famously warning the global community, "It is international morality that is at stake. God and history will remember your judgment." 3. The battle for international recognition. Initially, the international community was weak. Under the policy of appeasement, major powers like Great Britain and France actually considered recognizing Italy's de facto control over Ethiopia to avoid a wider war. However, the Ethiopian government in exile continuously used international legal principles to maintain their standing. They argued the principle of ex injuria jus non oritur. Unlawful acts cannot create legal rights. Because Italy broke global treaties to invade, the international community could not legally recognize the conquest. They maintained diplomatic channels and refused to shut down their legations abroad, keeping the legal identity of the lost country alive in the eyes of international courts. 4. Winning the country back, 1941. The legal and diplomatic persistence of the government in exile paid off when World War II broke out globally. The moment Britain went to war with Italy, the legal status of the Ethiopian government in exile shifted from a sidelined movement to an official, crucial wartime ally. The liberation, backed by the British military and local Ethiopian freedom fighters, Arbeknak, a liberation campaign was launched. The return, on May 5, 1941, exactly 5 years to the day after the capital had fallen, Emperor Haile Selassie marched back into Addis Ababa. The international community immediately restored full, undisputed international recognition to the domestic Ethiopian state. The government in exile successfully dissolved because its mission was accomplished. It had successfully preserved the legal continuity of a lost country through exile and safely brought its sovereignty back home to African soil.
I hope you had it. The laughter that recognizes them after how many years? 8 to 5 years, they brought their sovereignty back home. Ethiopia lost it. They lost their country. And after they have achieved recognition and come back home, the dissolved government in exile, they went on a full election. And somebody won, become a president. Because their job is to return this lost sovereignty back home. That is what USB declared is doing today. That is what they are using PayPal to do. That is why we are winning everywhere. And in the world is quietly love anything about USB declared document. That is why it's making headways in many countries today. That no country is rejecting USB declared document. Those countries are not being governed by any Biafrans. Those countries are none of us is giving them why they should accept the document. They know what it means to be a country. So when you give them what they are looking for, they are going to accept it. They must accept it because you have given them. This is what we are lacking. This is what we never give them. But now we are giving them that thing they want us to give to them. We are giving them what they are looking for. We are giving them the rights. Look at Ethiopia giving the world the right after they moved to exile and the redeclaration of their sovereignty that was being lost. They declare it in London. They declare it elsewhere, and they waited to 8 to 5 years before they come back and take over their territory back from the hands of Italy. And I ask you again, which year did USB redeclared? Which year did they declare USB? If you are anywhere in the world today and you are championing Biafra under IPOB, sorry. It's just a movement, not a state movement. You must prove a state movement. And the USB is proving what? A state movement, not organization movement. Not what? Not organization movement. That is the difference between what USB is doing and every other groups. You were doing a movement to beg the world, to tell Nigeria, to stop treating you bad. When the Ethiopia lost their country, do they transition into this and start protests? When Ethiopia people run into London, are they in London doing protests? Is it how they got their lost country back? Ethiopia never did protests in London. When Algeria tried it for 4 years, they said it's not working. They transitioned into government in exile in Cairo, Egypt, and Tunisia. When Algeria find out after 3 years and 10 months that these protests cannot give us Algeria, Namibia second from the hands of South Africa, they transitioned into exile in Angola, Tanzania, and Zimbabwe. They want Zambia, sorry. When they transition into these 3 countries, they issue a government in exile and form and they issue what? A peaceful declaration of their country. After the declaration, they all become country. That is the history. That is the template that USB is repeating today. The United States of Biafra is repeating. We have counted 3 in Africa already, both lost ones. And how they become a country. We have never tried this way until Simon Hebanjoku, the Prime Minister, come and introduce this way for us. And this is also the way Ojukwu is not introduced to us, because when others lost their country, run into other country, they do the continuity of the lost country they lost and into exile. And Simon Hebanjoku, who knows the road, come and introduce this way to us. We have been doing protests for 14 years in general in other IPOB organizations, from not under Masob. We have been on protests on the streets for 14 years without result. Why can't we change? Simon Hebanjoku, who studied the movement and who understands how Namibia, how Algeria, how Ethiopia, how Eritrea, how Angola achieved their country. Take us to that line today. The Biafra map that was raised down, like when Ethiopia lost their country, their map was raised down, their flag raised down. After the declaration and recognition, their flag raised up again. That is where we are. On the day they declared it, their flag raised up. And gradually, they brought them back into the map of the world. Today, United States of Biafra map has brought back into the map of the world. The plight of Bonny has become the plight of Biafra again. Let's listen to another section. The return of May 5, 1941. Actually, 5 years to the day after the capital had fallen, empire. The international community immediately restored fully understood international recognition to the domestic Ethiopia states in abroad, and they come back home to restore their country, take over their territory. And the sovereignty become full. We are moving. Now, on another session, listen.
To give you a comprehensive legal and political history, we have to look globally at the rare, specific organizations and liberation fronts that transitioned into a formal government in exile, GI, or provisional government, issued a peaceful declaration or redeclaration of statehood, and successfully used that transition to secure international recognition. Historically, this path is incredibly difficult. Most movements remain activist groups or rebel fronts. Only a select few successfully built a state-like administrative structure in exile that the international community recognized as a sovereign nation in waiting. Here is the complete history of the major organizations that successfully executed this exact strategy, organized chronologically by the year of their transition and declaration. 1. The Czechoslovak National Council, Czechoslovakia, the original organization, the Czechoslovak National Council. Year of transition and declaration, 1918. The history and transition. During World War I, the lands of Czechia and Slovakia were completely swallowed inside the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In 1916, nationalist intellectuals led by Tomáš Masaryk, Edvard Benes, and Milan Stefanik formed the Czechoslovak National Council in Paris. They began as
in Paris,
in no
France.
Physical territory. The declaration
No physical territory.
Instead of waiting for the war to end, the council set up parallel administrative functions. They raised an army of expatriates, the Czechoslovak legions, fighting on the Allied side and managed diplomatic networks. On October 18, 1918, Masaryk issued the Washington Declaration, the peaceful declaration of Czechoslovak independence, from Washington, D.C. because they had transitioned from a mere activist council into a fully functioning state apparatus with its own military and diplomats. The United States, Great Britain, and France formally recognized the council as the de facto government of a state that did not yet physically exist on the map. Months later, the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed, and the exiled government marched in to take physical control of their newly recognized country. 2. The National Liberation Front, GPRA, Algeria, the original organization. The National Liberation Front, FLN, Year of Transition and Declaration, 1958. The history and transition. For over 30 years, Algerian nationalists engaged in peaceful protests against French colonial rule, which were continuously suppressed. In 1954, the movement pivoted to an active war of liberation under the National Liberation Front, FLN. France maintained absolute control over the cities and legal institutions, declaring that Algeria was a permanent province of France. The Declaration and Recognition. To break France's domestic legal monopoly, the FLN leadership met in Cairo, Egypt, on September 19, 1958, and formally transitioned the organization into the Provisional Government of the Algerian Republic, GPRA, issuing a peaceful declaration of sovereign statehood from the outside. This transition altered international law. Over 30 nations, including Egypt, Ghana, Morocco, Tunisia, China, and the Soviet Union, immediately granted formal diplomatic recognition to the GPRA. By transforming from a rebel group into a government in exile, they forced France into international negotiations, leading directly to the Evian Accords and full territorial independence in 1962. 3. The Palestine Liberation Organization, Palestine, the original organization, the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, Year of Transition and Declaration, 1988. The History and Transition. Founded in 1964, the PLO operated for decades as an umbrella political and paramilitary organization representing the Palestinian diaspora and population under occupation. It was recognized by the Arab League and the UN as the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, but it lacked the formal status of a state government. The Declaration and Recognition. On November 15, 1988, at a meeting of the Palestinian National Council in Algiers, the PLO executed a massive legal shift. Yasser Arafat read the Palestinian Declaration of Independence, a peaceful proclamation establishing the State of Palestine and transitioning the PLO Executive Committee into the de facto provisional government in exile. The impact of this transition was immediate. Within weeks, over 80 countries formally recognized the newly declared government in exile. This diplomatic breakthrough forced the international community to open direct diplomatic channels, eventually leading to the Oslo Accords and the establishment of the Palestinian National Authority. Today, over 140 UN member states recognize this sovereign declaration. 4. The National Coalition Government of the Union of Burma, Myanmar, Burma, the original organization, elected members of parliament, NLD. Year of Transition and Declaration, 1990. The History and Transition. In May 1990, democratic elections were held in Burma, now Myanmar, and the National League for Democracy, NLD, led by Aung San Suu Kyi, won a landslide victory. The ruling military junta refused to recognize the results, arrested political leaders, and banned the parliament from convening. The Declaration and Recognition. Elected members of parliament managed to escape to the border regions and into neighboring Thailand. On December 18, 1990, they formed the National Coalition Government of the Union of Burma, NCGUB, issuing a formal declaration of legitimate state continuity from exile. While the NCGUB never achieved formal seat at the UN recognition due to geopolitical blocs by neighboring superpowers, it achieved a unique tier of international diplomatic recognition. The European Parliament, the United States, and several international bodies formally recognized the NCGUB as the only legitimate political representative of the Burmese people, funding their external administrative offices and diplomatic legations for over 2 decades until they strategically dissolved in 2012 to allow for domestic reforms. Summary analysis. Why did the transition work? If we look at these historical examples side by side, a clear pattern emerges showing exactly why transitioning into a government in exile and issuing a declaration succeeds in gaining international recognition. Entity. Year of DEC. Transition strategy. Recognition impact. Czechoslovak Council 1918. Transition from an intellectual circle to a military, diplomatic apparatus. Recognized by world powers before the physical country existed. FLN, GPRA, Algeria, 1958. Transition from an internal guerrilla movement to a formal ministry stack. Blocked France from calling the war a domestic policing issue. PLO, Palestine, 1988. Transition from a liberation front into a provisional state structure. Secured instant formal recognition from over 80 sovereign nations. NCGUB, Burma, 1990. Transition from ousted elected officials into an external parallel parliament. earned democratic legitimacy and funding from Western coalitions. The universal legal key. In every single historical case, the international community granted recognition because the organization stopped acting like a local protest group and started acting like a structured, legal state. They created ministries, kept immaculate citizen registries, signed or abided by global treaties, like the Geneva Conventions, and offered foreign powers a stable, legitimate, and legally organized alternative to the domestic occupying force.
I hope you are following. And I will urge you for one thing, whenever you are going to watch the program, please pay attention, like, share, subscribe on YouTube page. If you never do so, please, I urge you to do that. I urge you to do that. If you listen to this program with an open mind, you may understand where we are, what we miss over all these years to do that we have done this time, and that's the only way to achieve this Biafra as a country. And if you look at it properly, with all we are hearing here, remember that word, declaration. Remember that word, redeclare. Remember the word, declaration. Remember the word, redeclare. Remember the word, government in exile. Remember the word, transition. Remember the word, moving out from street to act as a country in waiting. Remember the word that is the only one that have issued this redeclared or declaration was the one that the word organizes, not any other one. This is what will make you to abandon all this nonsense group that we are into and focus on the bitter truth and the reality. Come out of Hadaino and face the reality. Come out of your Hadaino. Face the truth. Let the truth to guide you. No matter how hard, no matter painful this truth it is, I have to tell you. Look at how other countries becomes a country. Remember this word first, declaration. But before the declaration, remember the word transition. Before, as you are on transition, where are you transition into? Into a government in exile that has a very big duty, a very big work to do. What is this work of government in exile? To organize a date and call it that today we are doing declaration of our new nation out of this old country, or we that have lost our country, that we have called this date November 29, 2024 as a margin of what is happening to us, instead of December the 2nd, that on 29, that we have redeclared our lost country. Now we have redeclared our lost sovereignty. Now that we have to wait, like people of Pakistan, people of Algeria and Namibia, people of Czechoslovakia, and people of Myanmar. These are people of Poland, people of Ireland, many of them like that have lost their country, but they redeclare it, forming a government in exile. Today, they are all a country where you are for 14 years and be doing protests with your first daughter and second daughter. Today, they are the one reading letter to you when you go out to the protest. People that could have by now introduced them, they could have a country. Now they have joined you to start fighting. What could hand over to them if they have joined you to fight? If they have been the one joining you to stand on protest, you don't hand over anything to them. They stand and fight for their own country. I am giving you the message for you to understand that USB is the only option you have. The only way that Biafra will become a full sovereign nation is by what our DPM, Dr. Ngozi Orabeze is doing at this stage. There is no other. There is nothing like comparison. The world is watching. The same way the world what's happened to Namibia people, what happened to Algeria people, what happened to the people of Poland, what happened to the people of Ireland. It's the same way the world is watching what you are doing after we have issued declaration. Because it wants to remember that this declaration is how all these countries being mentioned here, their country today, they declare it. They never declared the name of their country and fall back and start continuing with organization. No. You know that when you come to that recognition, the organization must be in because of what? And it must be in brackets. But this is where you started. So let's hear this audio voice for the second time. Like that is not how we normally do it here. So you can dissect it without me saying a word. It's coming. Maybe network is somehow
To give you a comprehensive legal and political history, we have to look globally at the rare, specific organizations and liberation fronts that transitioned into a formal government in exile, GI, or provisional government, issued a peaceful declaration or redeclaration of statehood, and successfully used that transition to secure international recognition.
What do you get from this first article or this first chapter? To give you comprehensive legal and political history, we have to look at global at this time, specific organizations and liberation fronts that transition into a formal government in exile, GIE, or provisional government, issue a peaceful declaration or redeclaration of statehood that was lost, and successfully use this transition to secure international recognition. Use this word. Use this transition to secure international recognition of their lost country or the new one that was declared. You see these two words, transition, declaration, or redeclaration. Look at these two words. Through a government. Remember, the first one is a formal government in exile. Not DOS structure, not bridge fallback structure, not government council, not CRs, not all this does not exist in the eyes of the world. Their language is government in exile. That issued, once about government in exile, the next thing is, do they issue a declaration or redeclare their lost country? This is what the world is going to ask you about. And this is the criteria or the template they want to see. Historical, this part is incredibly difficult. Most movements remain active group or rebel group, or only select few successfully bought a state like administrative structure in exile. Now they have classified it clearly. They have classified it, telling you that those that achieve it is only those that did what? They said that successfully administrative structure in exile. You see how they classify it fully so that you may understand it. What it takes to have Biafra as a country. What it takes for us to be recognized. Remark that word again as I repeat this place. Without transition into a government in exile, the world or the oppressor country that is oppressing us or oppressing any other one sees you as a what? As a rebel activist group. Remark that word, a rebel activist group, or insurgency. They said here, only select few successfully states like administrative structure in exile that international community organized as a sovereign nation in waiting. Only those in exile that issue a formal, official declaration of their lost country is the one that United Nations, Washington, D.C., ICJ, EU, AU, and the countries in the world see as what? That they recognize them as a sovereign nation in waiting, sovereignty in waiting, to achieve a full recognition by them that are watching, that them that are monitoring to see how we can handle that movement that we are into at this stage. And I always use that word, that this is the first time ever we have gotten it right. By remaining peaceful. Please, I don't know if you have liked or shared the program. I don't know about that. But if you never, please endeavor to do. Whenever you like the program, you are bringing more people to come in. That is why I am calling on you to focus on USB Redeclared. This is the one that issue. When you listen to this, that is why I told you that the criteria of the international global community is not by you. For those asking for template, the template for Biafra to become a country is not going to be created by us. It can only be created by the international global community, those that made it possible for us. I use that word. It's not about my criteria. It's not about my template. It is for us to use their templates to understand that they said that we must transition into a government in exile and issue a former peaceful redeclared of United States of Biafra that we was lost in 1970 today until we came back on November the 20th, 2024 to redeclare it back. That is how we have become a country. Without that, you are just a male activist group. Because of my time, we are going to end it here until we come back again tomorrow morning.
Historically, this path is incredibly difficult. Most movements remain activist groups or rebel fronts. Only a select few successfully built a state-like administrative structure in exile that the international community recognized as a sovereign nation in waiting. Here is the complete history of the major organizations that successfully executed this exact strategy, organized chronologically by the year of their transition and declaration. 1. The Czechoslovak National Council, Czechoslovakia, the original organization, the Czechoslovak National Council. Year of transition and declaration, 1918. The history and transition. During World War I, the lands of Czechia and Slovakia were completely swallowed inside the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In 1916, nationalist intellectuals led by Tomáš Masaryk, Edvard Benes, and Milan Stefanik formed the Czechoslovak National Council in Paris. They began as a political lobbying group with no physical territory. The declaration and recognition. Instead of waiting for the war to end, the council set up parallel administrative functions. They raised an army of expatriates, the Czechoslovak legions, fighting on the Allied side and managed diplomatic networks. On October 18, 1918, Masaryk issued the Washington Declaration, the peaceful declaration of Czechoslovak independence, from Washington, D.C. because they had transitioned from a mere activist council into a fully functioning state apparatus with its own military and diplomats. The United States, Great Britain, and France formally recognized the council as the de facto government of a state that did not yet physically exist on the map. Weeks later, the Austro-Hungarian Empire collapsed, and the exiled government marched in to take physical control of their newly recognized country. 2. The National Liberation Front, GPRA, Algeria, the original organization, the National Liberation Front, FLN, Year of Transition and Declaration, 1958. The history and transition. For over 30 years, Algerian nationalists engaged in peaceful protests against French colonial rule, which were continuously suppressed. In 1954, the movement pivoted to an active war of liberation under the National Liberation Front, FLN. France maintained absolute control over the cities and legal institutions, declaring that Algeria was a permanent province of France. The Declaration and Recognition. To break France's domestic legal monopoly, the FLN leadership met in Cairo, Egypt, on September 19, 1958, and formally transitioned the organization into the Provisional Government of the Algerian Republic, GPRA, issuing a peaceful declaration of sovereign statehood from the outside. This transition altered international law. Over 30 nations, including Egypt, Ghana, Morocco, Tunisia, China, and the Soviet Union, immediately granted formal diplomatic recognition to the GPRA. By transforming from a rebel group into a government in exile, they forced France into international negotiations, leading directly to the Evian Accords and full territorial independence in 1962. 3. The Palestine Liberation Organization, Palestine, the original organization, the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, Year of Transition and Declaration, 1988. The history and transition. Founded in 1964, the PLO operated for decades as an umbrella political and paramilitary organization representing the Palestinian diaspora and population under occupation. It was recognized by the Arab League and the UN as the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, but it lacked the formal status of a state government. The Declaration and Recognition. On November 15, 1988, at a meeting of the Palestinian National Council in Algiers, the PLO executed a massive legal shift. Yasser Arafat read the Palestinian Declaration of Independence, a peaceful proclamation establishing the State of Palestine and transitioning the PLO Executive Committee into the de facto provisional government in exile. The impact of this transition was immediate. Within weeks, over 80 countries formally recognized the newly declared government in exile. This diplomatic breakthrough forced the international community to open direct diplomatic channels, eventually leading to the Oslo Accords and the establishment of the Palestinian National Authority. Today, over 140 UN member states recognize this sovereign declaration. 4. The National Coalition Government of the Union of Burma, Myanmar, Burma, the original organization, elected members of parliament, NLD. Year of Transition and Declaration, 1990. The history and transition. In May 1990, democratic elections were held in Burma, now Myanmar, and the National League for Democracy, NLD, led by Aung San Suu Kyi, won a landslide victory. The ruling military junta refused to recognize the results, arrested political leaders, and banned the parliament from convening. The Declaration and Recognition. Elected members of parliament managed to escape to the border regions and into neighboring Thailand. On December 18, 1990, they formed the National Coalition Government of the Union of Burma, NCGUB, issuing a formal declaration of legitimate state continuity from exile. While the NCGUB never achieved full, formal seat at the UN recognition due to geopolitical blocs by neighboring superpowers, it achieved a unique tier of international diplomatic recognition. The European Parliament, the United States, and several international bodies formally recognized the NCGUB as the only legitimate political representative of the Burmese people, funding their external administrative offices and diplomatic legations for over 2 decades until they strategically dissolved in 2012 to allow for domestic reforms. Summary analysis. Why did the transition work? If we look at these historical examples side by side, a clear pattern emerges showing exactly why transitioning into a government in exile and issuing a declaration succeeds in gaining international recognition. Entity. Year of DEC. Transition strategy. Recognition impact. Czechoslovak Council 1918. Transition from an intellectual circle to a military, diplomatic apparatus. Recognized by world powers before the physical country existed. FLN, GPRA, Algeria, 1958. Transition from an internal guerrilla movement to a formal ministry stack. Blocked France from calling the war a domestic policing issue. PLO, Palestine, 1988. Transition from a liberation front into a provisional state structure. Secured instant formal recognition from over 80 sovereign nations. NCGUB, Burma, 1990. Transition from ousted elected officials into an external parallel parliament. Earned democratic legitimacy and funding from Western coalitions. The universal legal key. In every single historical case, the international community granted recognition because the organization stopped acting like a local protest group and started acting like a structured, legal state. They created ministries, kept immaculate citizen registries, signed or abided by global treaties, like the Geneva Conventions, and offered foreign powers a stable, legitimate, and legally organized alternative to the domestic occupying force. To give you the most absolute, comprehensive historical record, we have to look globally at every major organization that successfully executed this exact sequence, originating as a political organization, liberation front, or parallel parliament, transitioning into a formal government in exile, GI, or provisional government, issuing a peaceful declaration or redeclaration of sovereignty, and successfully leveraging that transition to force the international community to grant them formal diplomatic recognition. Historically, this is an elite tier of statecraft. Here is the complete, detailed history of the organizations, the countries they represented, the exact years of their declarations, and how they practically executed this strategy. 1. The Czechoslovak National Council, Czechoslovakia, the country, Republic of Czechoslovakia. The organization, the Czechoslovak National Council, Československá národní rada, year of transition and declaration, 1918. The history and practical execution. During World War I, the Czech and Slovak nations did not exist on a map. They were completely subsumed within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In 1916, nationalist intellectuals led by Tomáš Masaryk, Edvard Benes, and Milan Stefanik formed a political advocacy group in Paris called the Czechoslovak National Council. To transition into a government, they realized they needed to show the world they could perform the primary duty of a state, defense. They organized Czech and Slovak prisoners of war and deserters across Europe into a highly disciplined military force of over 100,000 men, known as the Czechoslovak Legions, who fought alongside the Allied powers. The Declaration and Recognition. On October 18, 1918, Masaryk issued the Washington Declaration from Washington, D.C., a peaceful, highly sophisticated declaration of independence that outlined a democratic constitution, freedom of speech, and universal suffrage. Because the council had transitioned into an entity that commanded an active army and possessed an organized diplomatic corps, the United States, Great Britain, France, and Italy formally recognized the council as the de jure, legal government in waiting of Czechoslovakia before the empire even collapsed. When World War I ended weeks later, they marched in and took physical control of their newly recognized state. 2. The Dáil Éireann, Irish Volunteers, Ireland, the country, the Irish Republic, Sorstat Éireann, the organization, Dáil Éireann, the parallel parliament, and the Irish Volunteers. Year of Transition and Declaration, 1919. The history and practical execution. Following the 1916 Easter Rising, Irish nationalists moved away from scattered protests and targeted the British electoral system. In the December 1918 UK general election, the nationalist party Sinn Féin won a landslide victory across Ireland. Instead of traveling to London to sit in the British Parliament, the elected officials staged a peaceful political mutiny. They gathered in Dublin on January 21, 1919, and transitioned themselves into a revolutionary, parallel parliament called the First Dáil Éireann. The Declaration and Recognition. On that exact day, the Dáil issued 3 historic, peaceful documents: the Declaration of Independence, A Message to the Free Nations of the World, and the Democratic Program. They formally declared the Irish Republic and transitioned the parliament into a fully functioning underground government in exile operating within occupied territory. They set up a parallel court system, Dale courts, that completely bypassed British judges, successfully collected national taxes, and sent diplomatic envoys abroad. While Britain tried to suppress them by force during the Anglo-Irish War, the Russian Soviet Republic formally recognized the Irish Republic in 1920, and the sheer administrative success of the Dale forced Great Britain to sign the Anglo-Irish Treaty in 1921, recognizing the Irish Free State. 3. The National Liberation Front, GPRA, Algeria, the country, Democratic and Popular Republic of Algeria. The organization, National Liberation Front, Front de Libération Nationale, FLN, Year of Transition and Declaration, 1958. The history and practical execution. For nearly 30 years, Algerian organizations engaged in peaceful civil protests demanding equal rights from France. France systematically ignored them, asserting that Algeria was not a colony but a permanent, legal province of metropolitan France. In 1954, the movement pivoted, organizing under the FLN to launch an active war of liberation. By 1958, the FLN realized that military guerrilla warfare alone could not defeat a global superpower. They needed to strip France of its legal monopoly over Algerian identity. On September 19, 1958, the FLN leadership met in Cairo, Egypt, and formally transitioned their revolutionary organization into a state apparatus, the Provisional Government of the Algerian Republic, GPRA. The Declaration and Recognition. The GPRA immediately issued a peaceful declaration of statehood to the international community. They organized a formal cabinet of ministers, headed by Ferhat Abbas, and established highly sophisticated, functioning parallel ministries for foreign affairs, information, and finance based in Tunis and Cairo. The strategy was an immediate diplomatic masterstroke. Within weeks, over 30 countries, including Egypt, Ghana, Morocco, Tunisia, China, and the Soviet Union, granted formal diplomatic recognition to the GPRA. The GPRA then signed the Geneva Conventions, legally forcing the international community to recognize the conflict as an international war between two sovereign states rather than a domestic French policing matter. This international recognition forced France to the negotiating table, culminating in the 1962 Evian Accords and full territorial independence. 4. The Palestine Liberation Organization, Palestine, the country, the State of Palestine. The organization, the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, Year of Transition and Declaration, 1988. The history and practical execution. Founded in 1964, the PLO operated for decades as a liberation movement representing the Palestinian population under occupation and in the global diaspora. While the United Nations and the Arab League recognized the PLO as the sole legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, it did not possess the formal status, legal rights, or diplomatic privileges of a sovereign state government. The Declaration and Recognition. To elevate their status under international law, the PLO convened a historic session of the Palestinian National Council in Algiers. On November 15, 1988, Chairman Yasser Arafat read the Palestinian Declaration of Independence, a peaceful proclamation that established the State of Palestine. With this declaration, the PLO formally transitioned its executive committee into the Provisional Government in Exile of the State of Palestine. The structural transition dramatically altered their international standing. Within days of the peaceful declaration, over 80 countries formally extended full diplomatic recognition to the newly declared government in exile. This massive wave of global recognition forced the opening of direct, official diplomatic channels with Western nations, ultimately paving the legal path for the Oslo Accords, the establishment of the Palestinian National Authority, and the current reality where over 140 UN member states formally recognize the State of Palestine. 5. The National Coalition Government of the Union of Burma, Burma, Myanmar, the country, Union of Burma, Myanmar, the organization, National Coalition Government of the Union of Burma, NCGUB, Year of Transition and Declaration, 1990. The history and practical execution. In May 1990, the citizens of Burma voted in a democratic general election. The National League for Democracy, NLD, led by Aung San Suu Kyi, won a crushing landslide victory, securing over 80% of the parliamentary seats. The ruling military junta, SLORC, completely refused to honor the democratic mandate, arrested the leadership, and barred the newly elected parliament from ever convening. The Declaration and Recognition. Refusing to let the democratic mandate be erased, a core group of the legally elected members of parliament managed to escape the capital, navigating through the jungles to the border regions and into neighboring Thailand. On December 18, 1990, in the town of Marnarpla, they executed a formal political transition, forming the National Coalition Government of the Union of Burma, NCGUB, and issuing a peaceful declaration of legitimate state continuity. They appointed Dr. Sein Win as Prime Minister and set up external administrative offices across the globe. While geopolitical blocs by neighboring superpowers prevented them from taking Burma's physical seat at the UN, the NCGUB achieved an incredibly vital tier of international recognition. The European Parliament, the United States government, Norway, and several international judicial bodies formally recognized the NCGUB as the only legitimate political and administrative representative of the Burmese people, funding their global diplomatic legations for 22 years until they strategically dissolved in 2012 during domestic democratic openings. Summary timeline of sovereign transitions. Year of DEC. Country represented. Transitioning organization. Type of recognition achieved 1918. Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovak National Council. Full de jure recognition by world powers, US, UK, France, before the territory was physically secured. 1919. Ireland. Sinn Féin, First Dáil Éireann. International treaty-making recognition, forced Great Britain to negotiate statehood. 1958. Algeria. National Liberation Front, FLN, GPRA. Widespread recognition from 30-plus Afro-Asian and Soviet states, internationalized the war. 1988. Palestine. Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO. Widespread global recognition, currently 143 UN member states, elevated to non-member observer state status. 1990. Burma, Myanmar. Elected parliamentarians, NCGUB. Formal democratic recognition and institutional funding from Western nations and the EU. The universal blueprint for success. If you look at the entire arc of global history, the organizations that successfully transitioned into a recognized government in exile followed a very specific, strict administrative formula. The international community did not recognize them just because they protested. They recognized them because they mirrored the exact infrastructure of a state, constitutional mandate. They always based their transition on a clear legal foundation, either a sweeping democratic election victory, Ireland, Burma, or a unified, undisputed national mandate, Czechoslovakia, Algeria, Palestine. The ministry stack, they abandoned the loose structure of an activist group and formed structured, professional cabinet portfolios, ministries of foreign affairs, finance, and justice, that foreign diplomats could interact with using standard diplomatic protocols. Meticulous record-keeping. They proved their sovereignty by managing data. They maintained comprehensive, encrypted registries of their citizens, issued formal identification credentials, and collected resources globally, proving to the world that their state identity was alive, organized, and entirely independent of physical geography.
Until we come back again tomorrow, then we are going to do the analysis of this program properly, particularly these 6 of them, and how they achieved their country, and all that's happened to them. I want to thank those who are here, and also I want to ask you, please, anytime you come to watch, just hit the like button. Whenever you're hitting the like button, you are sharing the message to other people to listen to this message. You know, this is a different message for all you have been hearing. The message for you to know how we are getting it right, and how we are repeating the history, how we stand on the template that every other countries that have used organization that transitioned and issued declaration or redeclare, how all of them are becomes a country today. That is where we are. So there is no other way around. And there is no other organization that will pass USB declared. And the the sweetest thing about this research is that you find out that none of these government in exile that issue, redeclare, or declare it was they lost it. No. The world never abandoned them or jumped them to recognize another country. Or sorry, to recognize another group. They start from the one that transitioned to government in exile. And the only government in exile that the world knows properly is that one that issued that declaration or redeclare it. There's no other way around. There's no other place. Our own case can never be different from all these cases. Honestly. When you listen to that is when you must be proud that you are a citizen of United States of Biafra. Gabriel, thank you so much for that. I am a citizen of United States of Biafra. Hashtag Nigeria must go. Thank you for that. I thank you for being here. Few of you, you know that here we don't share, we don't analyze IPOB movement. We don't do those. So few people that comes, I am happy that you are here. You followed me for roughly 2 hours and something minutes that we have been here. So we will come back tomorrow to analyze this program. You see, we'll analyze the first and second. The third, we never come into analyze because this will take a whole 2 hours. So please watch out tomorrow as we will come back to analyze it. We are going to, in fact, revise it. We are going to mesmerize on this analysis tomorrow. That is why you must know. That is why you have to understand that USB is doing us very proud and that we are on the right track first time after we lost our country. First time after we lost our country. So I thank you. I welcome you all. But I must go to the comment section to greet everyone in the comment section because I never did so today. So I will start from my brother, Gabriel. Thank you so much for being here. Honestly, I appreciate all you do today. I am a citizen of United States of Biafra. Hashtag Nigeria must go. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Benjamin, you just entered. Nigeria must, hashtag Nigeria must go out of Biafra land. I am at Biafra. I am a Biafra. Thank you for that. Then I see you here. I see you here. Now, it's very far from me. Okay, let's read from screen like this. He said, excellent, Emmanuel. He said, excellent. We who are the citizens of United States of Biafra knows it facts. Okay, my brother said, I am a full citizen of United States of Biafra. And when I asked how many years, he said 8 years. You got it right. Faith said, I am a citizen of the United States of Biafra. Nigeria must go. This is because Biafra is a sovereign nation. That is it, my brother. That is it. You are right. That is what we want people to be saying. Today, I have a powerful message. If your time permit me, sir. My brother, I can no time for today till tomorrow. Now, you said Algeria gained independence from France on July 5th, 1962, after conflict that lasted from 1954 to 1962. This period included significant fighting and negotiating, leading to the signing of the accord. Yes, you are right. That is that's what we are doing here. Has to prove to you that that this way that USB is right now is how people achieve their country. My brother, can I say good evening? God bless you, my brother. God bless you, my brother. Are they doing a wonderful job? Thanks so much. I understand what you want to mean. Hashtag Nigeria must go, USB must stand. Thank you for that. I see you here. I see Onyang Ugochukwu. Nigeria must go out of United States of Biafra because Biafra is a nation. Thank you so much for that. Also said here again, you write here, it said, hashtag I am a citizen of United States of Biafra. Thank you for that. And they also said here again, don't worry, good evening, my brother. I see you, Ekwem. Thank you so much. I see my man, the first commenter. Majichigo, he says you should like and share. This your mind. Then I see one Nena. Yeah, one Nena. I see you here. Thank you so much. He said to the prayer of our leader, Mazen Namdekano. And I see Ushe is your four. I am a citizen of United States of Biafra, USBG. Thank you. And these people that said it's a Gabriel, Chibuz, Ede, and all of them. That Chibuz or Ede said here, hashtag Nigeria must go out of Biafran nation, USB. Thank you so much. Also said, hashtag I am a citizen of United States of Biafra, USB nation. Thank you so much. And the Anyang said, hashtag I am a citizen of United States of Biafra. Hashtag Nigeria must leave Biafra land. God bless citizens of USB. Thank you so much for that. And somebody said, hashtag Nigeria must go. Biafra is a nation. He also said, hashtag I am a citizen of United States of Biafra. Thank you for being here, my Chigozie. You are the first. I thank you so much. One thing we must understand is this. That you see all this saga. I see it on it. Nigerian government just use IPOB to give our people a message, and you are sharing it. Refusing to let us educate ourselves. But that is what our people choose. Our people choose that thing so much. And that is what we are doing that thing like what IPOB is doing. Like IPOB who believe in protest agitation. You that are all what you want to listen to or Rama, want to listen to IPOB, their nonsense they are doing, you also acting like them. Nothing different between you and IPOB who believe in protest, because you believe in debunking ourselves. You that are doing that, you are still remain like them. You are still obese, boy. Yeah, this is what was left from the time of Wazirike. This is what we have been doing. The right thing we're supposed to do for Biafra to be country, we all rejected it. My brother, Gaspe TV, I greet you. Thank you so much. The things that we're supposed to do, we are not doing them. That is why Biafra is still delayed to this moment. And those part of the things that make it to be delayed is what we are presenting. That is where you see 100 and 200 and liking and sharing. I use this time to know, oh, so we like this. This is what we like, oh, gossiping. This one, gossip, we come with gossip. Our people are very far from helping ourselves to have Biafra as a country. That's why I told you that what we are doing, what we focus on is not things that we give Biafra as a country. It's not what we make the world to understand what we are doing. It's not we need media to propagate the Biafra government in exile. We need media to propagate our declaration. We need media to emphasize that we have redeclared. We need media to prove to the United Nations, to prove to the world that we are getting it right again, and we are seeking recognition. I don't know these other people, honestly. Both those who speak nicely, those who speak eloquently, those who we all focus on internal matter. I have made it clear. I have understand that internal matter never stop the right recognition to come. The hours, the strength we channel on debunking lies of our followed Biafrans, and not even debunking Nigeria, not even exposing on Nigeria, or is debunking ourselves. That is, I don't know why that is our method. Honestly, we don't change. And then I'm saying that you're not supposed to debunk for those who that is what they choose. But give it a 2-bit hour now and focus to let the world know that we have redeclared. The more we are presenting it, the more the message, you don't know who will see the message. Honestly, internal matter ideology is what we focus on. The internal matter ideology is too much on us. That is why we remain where we are. We are on the round and doing the same thing. If you are seeing today presenting all this news of all this IPOB and what they are passing through today, you are the same with them. Because based on something that flows together, what you present is what you think and how you look and what you are acting. You undermining our declaration. You undermining the message need to send to the world. All those internal problems, nobody asks you about that. All those internal problems never stop. See, the only thing that gives me morale more is that when I look at the only 56 men won against 500 in America, I'm okay. When you're on the legal side. So for those that just join us lately, we already spent 2 hours and into 3 hours. So because of my, this is 3 a.m. here. I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to come back in the morning again. So for us to analyze these 6 organizations that transition to government in exile and issue declaration that USB declared is repeating all this history and standing on the protocol. That's how other countries, how other organizations through government in exile achieve their country recognition. That is what we are doing. I would have no time. Have no time. Even if it's only one person is watching, share the program. You might share it to the right appropriate authority, and they will know what we are discussing here. Now, when they see that we have been bringing examples of all these countries, during the decision of all the countries, they will say, let us find these people so they cannot be able to open up everything that we have been hiding for us. So please, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I adore you. I urge you to continue to stand. Saturday is fundraising. Come out and donate. Don't be on the fence. The time to be on the fence is over. I am here for you who is on the fence. For you not be on the fence is not solving so many problems. That what will solve our problem is when you are in support and donate. When you understand, I will make you to understand that it's only USB redeclared. It's only government in exile you have that is legal, that the world knows. It's not by claiming, it's not by carrying portfolio, it's not by wearing, it's not by going to Washington DC to build different political attention. And what I'm supposed to do tomorrow is to give you all the document of IPOB submitting, their title and what it means. Give you what BGCO is submitting. Give you what US government is submitting. And now I'll ask you who is acting as a country waiting among all these things that I mentioned right now. That is when you will know the truth. That is use these countries and understand it clearly. So please, see you again in the next few hours. Thank you so much for being here.